should I have a Robert Sullivan on the show? And I was like, no, that's not right, because they're probably too high strung. Bob is kind of a laid back name where it's an all inclusive name where everybody can talk to you.
Very approachable. I agree. Yeah.
It's very approachable because you're not like, because it seems like the Robert name is like whenever somebody says, oh, hey Rob, or hey Bob, or Bobby, or Robbie, they're like, no, my name is Robert. It kind of feels like your name's Robert.
Yeah. Now, let's just think about this for a second. Could you even imagine someone named Bob who insisted on using a middle initial, say, in their byline? Like,
oh, God.
The story, like Bob M. So how silly would that be, right?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Bob, you're not going to add. Yeah. So whereas Robert is, there's going to be a middle name. You probably are going to sass it if you're using that middle name. So Bob is just unpretentious.
Yeah, especially when you break away, well, like we did, breaking away from the motherland of Ireland. We broke away from the mother name of Robert. But, it's funny with the name Robert. It's just, you just have so many ways you can break apart from that. But back to you. You seem to be the smarter of, at least one of the smarter Bob Sullivans. I'm kind of the dumb one, the one that drinks a little too much. You've written bestsellers. I've never been able to read a bestseller. Not that I'm against it, but the reading, sitting down and reading is not my best strong suit. Tell me about writing a book and reading a book.
I'm going to guess, first of all, that you're not my target market if you don't read books, so that's going to be a tough one right there. Yeah. Writing a book is actually, don't tell anybody else this. This is between you and me, right? No one's going to hear this. Writing a book is a lot easier than it sounds. It really is. It's just a matter of sitting down for a couple hours a day for about 3 months and writing for an hour or two. And the line that I heard when I was very young learning how to write was a page a day is a book a year. Mm-hmm. So if you can sit down and write a page every day, you'll write a book every year of your life. And that's going to sound like a lot, but it's not really. So, you have an idea, you have some focus, and what really matters, of course, is that you figure out what it is that tickles people's fancy. And in my case, I write about things that really, really anger people, like hidden fees or frustrations with a big bank or with a mortgage company or with a cable company or cell phone company. And there's just endless material for that. And so once you figure out what tickles people's fancy, it's just a matter of sitting down for an hour or two a day, and we call it the button seat theory. You just sit down and you get it out.
Well, Bob, okay, you're writing about stuff that angers people. Do you want me to tell you my last 5 blogs I've written about?
Sure.
Okay, my last 5 blogs, one is my 600-pound life, which is about my inspiration to go on the show, My 600-Pound Life on TLC. My second one was Toilet Tinder, which is like Tinder on the Tinder app where you swipe yes if you want to meet the chick or no if you don't want to meet the chick. But this is yes if you want to use the toilet or no if you don't want to use the toilet. My third one was Thanksgiving is being destroyed, my criticism of Christmas. My fourth one was Bob's fake mailbag with fake questions from Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and Trent Dilfer. And my fifth one was Backyard Baseball, talking about how that game from the 90s when I was growing up was racist and had, stereotypical names. Those are my last 5 My last 5 blog posts are embarrassments compared to your 4 bestsellers, and I don't even know what to do right now. This is embarrassing.
Well, okay, so take Katy Perry and Trent Dilfer. What's the commonality there?
Oh, well, Trent Dilfer had some stupid conversation about he had some stupid comment about how he said you can't lose games and still win. So I answered that fake question for him. And then Katy Perry said she's hosting the Super Bowl commercial or the Super Bowl halftime show, and I answered her question as far as whether she could, host an NFL or a Super Bowl halftime show and still be, still be relevant as far as like the Janet Jackson Timberlake thing without having a wardrobe malfunction. So I helped her out with that. That was my help as far as the fake.
Got it.
Bob, actually, we have a caller. Is this a Bob Sullivan caller?
It is a Bob Sullivan caller.
Oh, who is this?
This is Bob Sullivan from the East Coast. I'm in Wilmington, Delaware. And Bob, if you feel better, I am much less successful than your previous guest as well, and I am also in my basement.
Awesome. Well, we got two Bob Sullivans in our basement and a Bob Sullivan in the hen house. How are you doing, Bob Sullivan?
Great. Thanks for reaching out and having me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bob Sullivan from the West Coast. What is on this 3-person Bob Sullivan show meeting? What do you have to say to the other Bob Sullivan? Say what you have to say to the East Coast Bob Sullivan.
Oh, I'm confused about which Bob it is supposed to speak.
Yeah, so my question was, how do you pick between Bob and Rob? Because I went through a phase in high school where I tried to be Rob, and it just didn't work, and people started calling me Bob again.
I didn't. And I think that Rob is so. To me, Bob is sort of the least common denominator name, isn't it? It's the most salt of the earth, regular guy. Bob is the Bud Light name. Rob is more of the craft beer name, I think, and it's more of the elite, artistic, sophisticated version, which has its place. Probably if you're going on a first date and you really want to impress someone and you want to say your name's Rob. But in the end, I think if you're a Bob, I think that means you're an everyman, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, I am too, and I think my analogy I used before is Rob has tattoos and rides motorcycles, and I have friends that do that, but I don't do either. I don't have any, and I don't ride motorcycles. But someone I went to high school with went by the name of Rob. He was what I would describe as the Bob, your everyday, seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and he just got elected to the New York State Senate. He just won a New York State Senate race, and he ran under Rob. That was all his whole campaign. He was Rob, and he didn't fit that sort of maybe the badass stereotype. And so that's why. So there are exceptions to that, and that's why I just think he always was a Rob in high school, and I was always like a Bob, and I don't. Just wondering how that evolves for different people. For Roberts, that is.
Well, as far as me, the Bob Sullivan of the Bob Sullivan Show, just so nobody gets confused, and my beef with the other Bob Sullivan from the West Coast, and I'm cool with you, Bob, from the Philadelphia area, even though Philadelphia normally hates a lot of people. But as far as I go, it just developed out of laziness from other classmates, other players on my team. It just developed out of laziness, and I just, I'm kind of the guy that goes. I think that's with like me and Bob, confusing or not, kind of talked about. Is it just kind of goes with we're kind of just go with the flow type of guys, and the Bob.
As am I.
They're like, hey Bob, and it just. Okay, whatever. You just kind of go with the flow. Is that fair, Bob or Bob?
That's a fair assessment. Yeah, I identify with that. That's I think that's my personality.
Bob's, I would
personally,
appreciate it if you guys would identify yourself before you start talking.
Well, this is Bob, and is that not clear? And I mostly I just am happy that people are calling me by a name that's a word you can say on the radio usually.
Yeah.
Bob Sullivan from Philly, the EMT Bob Sullivan. What is your take? What is your take on Bob Sullivan from Washington, the West Coast Bob Sullivan, who, whenever me and you Google ourselves, we're not number one when we pop up. I'm bitter towards Bob Sullivan on the West Coast. Whenever I Google myself, I have to compete with this guy, this a-hole.
I just did that actually while I was listening to see where I popped off, and after hearing what Bob from the West Coast had to say, I'm happy that the first thing that comes up under Bob is my blog, which is at the very bottom of the second page of Google. So there's lots of other Bob Sullivans that are more searchable than me. Identity is a little more safe.
Oh, so you're more I guess you're more humble than me.
Well, I did not think about the identity theft. I mean, I think about identity theft. I did not think it in terms of where your name comes up in Google. However, there's also another author named Robert, who I believe is which that also comes up in a Google search, which is a different from Bob.
I don't feel like this show would have been the same if we had Roberts on the show.
No, and I was wondering that. I said, is this going to be Bob's, or will there be? Does Robert count? And I
didn't feel like it did. I didn't feel like it did. I tried to have somebody, like I said, from the motherland, Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get him to come on. He big timed us because he's from Ireland. He thought he was better than me, you, Canadian Bob. He thought he was better than all four of us combined, and that's not a fact. But that's just what I.
Well, I'm only a quarter Irish. I just got the last name. So St. Patrick's Day is not a huge deal at my house, or it wasn't growing up. But
it's a big name on Twitter. It's a big deal on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a big deal on Twitter. And I have been to Ireland. I did meet the O'Sullivans from my family. I have been to Ireland, but it's only a quarter of my makeup.
Well, Bob Sullivan on the West Coast. Before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff, and then it's the Bob Sullivan East Coast half hour?
Sure. Well, my website is bobsullivan.net, and that's the best way to find me. I write about consumer issues. I write about cybercrime. I try to think of myself as defending the common person against companies like Comcast and AT&T and SiriusXM. And more than anything, what I do with my free time is hang out with other people named Bob, because they're always wholesome and up for a good time. So I can't thank you enough, and I hope we do this on a regular basis.
I was thinking every 6 months or a year. I mean, if you want to stay on for the rest of the hour, that's cool with me.
Well, you know what? I certainly, while I would love to, I can't possibly stand in the sunlight of Philadelphia, Bob, so I'm going to keep that spot now.
All right. Well, Bob Sullivan, I think we need to have a Bob Sullivan summit at least once a year, if not every 6 months, if not every 3 months. But yeah, we need to get this gang together every chance we get.
I'll have a big slab of steak for me in Omaha there, and next time I'm through town, I'll let you know.
Will do, yeah. Next time you come to Omaha, let me know, and yeah, we'll go to Piccolo's or someplace where you can buy me a steak for being number one on Google when I search for it.
That sounds great. Have a good night.
Right. Sounds good. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bob Sullivan, EMT. what's it like being an EMT? Because I am not very smart, and what's